Sanders coming at you from Grand Rapids, Michigan, the Baking Steel Studio. Thank you guys for being here. Super grateful. We love doing these classes. Today we are doing a pizza hangout. That means I'm going to make pizza and then I'm going to answer all your questions. I have dough that I made. This is crazy. We talk about fermentations. I made this dough last Thursday. So it is literally like 5 or 6 days old. It's been fermenting for that long. It's going to be incredible. It's got a lot of flavor, central milling, high gluten. I've got my oven preheating. I've got 2 steels inside at 450 degrees. I'm using an electric oven from Monogram. It's dynamite. We'll take a peek inside my oven shortly. And then what I'm going to do is make a pizza. I made my dough balls this morning around like 9 o'clock. And if you follow our 72-hour recipe, I'm going to go through it really quick. It's bread, flour, 500 grams. It's water, 350 grams. It's 16 grams of sea salt and 1 gram of yeast. I measure everything by scale and metric. I mix it all together. I leave it on the counter for 24 hours at room temperature, which to me is about 70 degrees. After the initial fermentation, I take my entire bulk of dough and I place it in the fridge for 2, 3, 4 days. And then what I do is I remove it. So for example, this morning, I removed my dough from the fridge and I made 3 dough balls, each about 250 grams. And I made my balls and I want those dough balls to relax at room temperature for about 3 hours. Now it's winter, it's very cold. My studio is about 69 degrees, 70 degrees in here. So it's a little bit on the cooler side, but it's awesome. This dough has been sitting here for 3 hours. Let me grab it. I'm gonna give you, I'm gonna switch you guys, put it down. And I'm gonna show you what my dough balls will look like. Still very cold. So this dough has been relaxing for 3 or 4 hours. And that's it. You can see it's a little bit, you can't feel, but it's a little bit on the cooler side. Probably could use another 30 or 40 minutes. That's it. Let's make a pizza. I coat both sides with flour, right? And I just kind of lightly press it out, just like this. And you can see it's not springing back too much. Right? I just keep flipping it over so it doesn't stick to my countertop. I'm going to give this about a 70% stretch, and then I'm going to get into my other ingredients. And I'm being very gentle with my dough. It feels like a cloud. This is, again, 6-day dough. So I can really smell the aroma. It's beautiful. I press it, and I can leave a perimeter here, like for the crust. Or in some instances, I might just pat out the entire dough gently to form one massive pizza, right? And this is probably about 5 or 6 inches now. Lightly pressing. Now I'm going to do is I'm going to put this aside, just like this. Go back to me for 1 second. So I've got my dough kind of prepped. I want to get into the pizza making. So the ingredients that I'm using tomatoes, crushed tomatoes. The tomatoes I'm using today are Isola, they're San Marzanos from the DOP region. These are phenomenal. These are whole peeled tomatoes. I open this can up and I crush them by hand. If I want to grind it really quick with like a blender, very, very quickly. And I've got this, you can see the consistency here, a little bit on the thick side, which I love. And all I've done is add a little bit of sea salt into my tomatoes. And that's going to give it this really vibrant tomato taste. I love these tomatoes. They're just beautiful. I'm using Fontina cheese. So let me grab up what I have. This is Fontana Fontel, right? It is pasteurized cow milk. I buy this at Whole Foods. It's really soft. I shred it with my Wonder Shredder. really got an incredible flavor. It melts nice. I love the Wonder Shredder because I shred it in these like big shreds like this. I'm using like this side here, right? It gives me this really big shreds. And we like to shred our own cheese because if we buy the pre-shredded cheeses at the stores, that all these strands are coated with a starch. And those tend to make the cheeses shreds stick. I mean, they stick together if you don't do that. So the shred, but they tend to brown too fast in the oven. So what we like to do is shred it ourselves. There's no starch. It's just the cheese. Awesome. I'm using a fresh mozzarella. Now this is like my combo of cheeses that I use almost in virtually all my pizzas. It's just a really nice blend. I've cut this fresh mozzarella into chunks. Again, I can tear it by hand. I can chunk it, whatever you feel in that day. That's my cheese. And some Romano. I like grated Romano. I kind of add it over my sauce. It's kind of a hidden flavor in my pizza. It's really nice, super easy. If you'd like, at the end, we can do some basil, some olive oil. Let's get back to pizza making, okay? So my dough is ready. You saw what I did there. Let's get back to this. I need a pizza peel, right? This is gonna help me, a vessel to get into the oven on my super hot baking steel. So I like to put some semolina flour down and some regular flour down. And I just dust that around. I'll even give it a little knock. I don't want to go too heavy because this will gonna fall off into my oven, but most importantly, my dough needs to get into the oven. That's the most important thing. So my dough is about, you can see now it's probably like 6 or 7 or 8 inches almost, okay? I'm gonna put it in the back of my knuckles and just turn it like this and let gravity do its thing. And let's go from this angle so you can see what I'm doing. I continuously turn. The lighting's got a little reflective there. A little pull and a turn. You can see how it's really starting to, the gravity is doing all the work. You can see those bubbles forming in the dough. Nice, right? And let's see here. So once I get, I'll move my flour out of the way here. My dough stretched to where I want it to be. Boom, I place it on my peel. Look at you can see the gases from the fermentation, right? Creating my air bubbles. It's gorgeous. I like to do, before I do cheese or sauce, give this thing a little jiggle. See how it's sliding like a puck? That's critical, okay? And now what I'm gonna do is take my edges and just kind of pinch it a little bit, like this, right? It's kind of stretching it and pinching it. This does a couple of things. Makes my pizza a little bit bigger, but it also gives that crust a nice little texture, right? So each bite is going to be unique. It's going to have its own like unique flavor or bite or texture to it. And no two pizza is going to be the same. They're all going to be different. No bite's going to be the same, right? Isn't that gorgeous? And now for my sauce, I place a little bit on the center. And now I just kind of push it around. And my mantra when making pizza is less is more. Because this sauce has a lot of water content. And if I put too much sauce, that sauce is going to seep through my crust, not giving it a fair chance to bake. Again, I stretch it a little bit more, right? Isn't that pretty? Give it a little shake. See how it's still loose, like a hockey puck. And now for my cheese, I'll do a little Romano first. Again, that's the hidden treasure underneath, on top of my sauce, but underneath the rest of the cheese. And now we'll do some Fontina, right? Let gravity kind of let it fall. Pretty, less is more, probably a little heavy there. And my cheese, I'll do a little bit of, this is the fresh mozzarella. Again, I've already cut these into cubes. I'm just placing them on, dropping them on. That's pretty much my pizza. All right, that's simple, right? And I'm gonna give it a little jiggle. And we know, oops, sorry guys. We know it's Where is it? Sorry, guys, here we go. We know it's ready for the oven. Got my pizza made. I can give it a little jiggle. It's still sliding like a puck. Let's go over to my oven. And what I'm gonna do is, I've been preheating at 450. I'm gonna switch it to broil. High. I preheated at 450 because now what I'm gonna do is switch it to broil. Because it's an electric oven with some intelligence, the oven's not too hot. So when I hit broil, it's gonna, now that broil will come on within the next minute, which is super fast for an electric oven. If I preheat it at 500, that broiler will pause. It will not kick in right away because the oven, the sensors in the oven will say, hey, whoa, 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 I'm way too hot. I'm not gonna go on yet. I'm gonna wait, sometimes like minutes. And what happens, one, my pizza is now sitting too long. It might get stuck on my peel, but now my timing is way off. I really want to control my time, my variables here. And I want my broiler on within a minute. So I found 450 is ideal for this oven. Now your oven might be a little different. If you have a gas oven, it will pretty much fire up simultaneously. It's fast. So inside, my broiler is on. Let's go. I'm gonna take you for a journey here. Let's do this together. You guys can see what I'm doing. Pardon the shaky camera, but we can do this. All right, so I'm gonna put my pizza dough here. Ready? You see my oven here? Slide my rack out. Right? Back of my peel, the back of the steel, and just kind of shake it off, just like that. Close it up. You can see my broiler is on, it's red hot. Timer, 2 minutes. Got my timer up at 2 minutes. That way I'll know I won't burn it. 2 minutes. What I might do, I might even open it before then. I might rotate that pizza after 90 seconds just so I get even color on top. Again, remember your back of the oven is gonna be a little warmer than the front of the oven because we just opened it up. The steel is what's gonna help contain that heat underneath that crust, which is gonna help it cook beautifully. I'm gonna rotate that. Probably at 90 seconds, I might even turn the broiler off and just do bake for the next 2 or 3 minutes. I like, I'm gonna use one steel. If you saw inside my oven, I've got 2 steels, top and bottom rack. If I'm making multiple pizzas, I would, after 2 minutes, I would take my top pizza and move it to my bottom steel and launch a new one on top, which is what I did on Friday night. I made 15 pizzas in about an hour. I kept rotating. Right? Every 2 minutes or 3 minutes, I would take a new one, put the old one on the bottom, new one on top, and just continue that cycle. It's a little tricky with an electric oven because the broiler is going on and off throughout. So my pizzas weren't like ideal, but they were still pretty amazing. I hope that makes sense. All right, it's been about almost 90 seconds. Let's go inside for a look. All right, let's go inside. So here's my oven. You can see I'm getting some color on top. Gonna rotate a little bit. Boom, right? Still nice. Close it up. I got about 15 seconds left. I'm gonna turn the broiler off. Let's go cancel. Let's go back to now convection. I'll go 500. Remaining. Let's go 2 more minutes. I'll do 2 minutes again. And now we got 2 more minutes in there. And that'll be about a 4-minute pizza, which is pretty fast. It might not be all the way done. I've kept that oven open too much in between, which I don't recommend, however, for a class as we get into. Let's get to some questions. And if you do have a question, put them in the chat box here. And I'll get to all of them. If I miss it, please type it in again, and we'll get right back to it. Tom, I hope we answered that on the dough. You can email me too. If you guys want to talk dough, I'm happy to do that too. Let's see. I've tried Karen Springs and Purpose makes great pie crust. But I'm going to try. Okay. Sorry, Vicky, I saw that already. Let's go. All right. If I were to make a 24-hour dough, would 00 be okay? No, great question. So Kate, I did not make my dough balls before I went into the fridge. Someone's asking, the older version of our recipe, we used to make the dough balls and then put the dough balls like in these delis, right? And put these delis into the fridge for 2 or 3 days. What we found is that the dough would, even though it's cold, would start to proof and rise in the fridge. So to eliminate that, we said, hey, why don't we just bulk the entire dough cold, remove it as we use it. In other words, I would remove the dough. I've got my big bulk of dough now. I would just shave off like 250 grams, make my dough ball, and those would I be using that day. That makes sense. So it really helps us control the final proof, which is like what I did this morning at 9 a.m. I made dough balls for 12 p.m. today. So it's 3 hours. I controlled the atmosphere. I controlled the temperature. We found 3 hours to be ideal, anywhere between 3 and 4 hours, depending on the temperature, to be ideal for pizza. Let's go back in the oven again here, guys. See what we got. All right, so now it's been about 4 minutes. Let's see how it's looking. Ooh, we got some nice char. Isn't that pretty? Right? Look underneath. Crust. It's gorgeous, guys. Oh my gosh, it looks amazing, right? Now I can let this go for another minute or two. However, what I'm going to do is I'm going to remove it because I'm going to cook this a little bit more later. Let's see. Boom. Isn't that awesome? Beautiful. Oh yeah. I wish somebody was from Grand Rapids was here. You could take a look. Isn't that great, guys? So look, crispy, bottoms cooked really well. Let me turn my oven on. Let me shut my oven. Now I could cook this another minute because I think it needs like maybe another 30 seconds. But however, it's still awesome. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna cook this again later for the kids, and it's about 90% there. Right when I bake it off for like another minute later on, that'll finish it. But you can see, really beautiful, right? Crust is great, pizza's crispy, smells amazing. My topping not too heavy. I went light, right? Still gorgeous. I'd like, let's look on the top down again. So you guys can see, look at that, right? Isn't that beautiful? I love the color of the chars, right? I could put some basil down if I'd like on this. It'd be gorgeous. The aroma is amazing. Super good. Let's get to some more questions. What position do you place the rack? So I've got inside my oven two racks, top and bottom. And my top, I have the second to the top, or about 7 inches from the broiler. And then I use the bottom rack for my second steel. I like to use the second from the top because I've got these beautiful racks that slide in and out of my oven, which are really handy. I recommend getting those if you can. If I didn't have that, then I still need to give myself enough room to go in and out of my oven. Hope that helps. I find that any dough older than 2 days, it doesn't brown well enough. It looks underbaked. Pernima, that's an interesting take. So the longer I ferment my dough, the browner it tends to get naturally. That's in my experience. My question to you would be, what type of flour are you using when you make your dough? If you can put that in the chat, that'd be great. When you do multiple pizzas, do you broil each for 2 minutes? Yes, so on Friday night, I was in a new environment. I had a kitchen I've never stepped foot in before. I had one KitchenAid oven, which was beautiful. I've loaded in 2 steels, second to top rack, and then bottom rack. And it was an electric oven. I preheated at 450. I gave it a test run. After about an hour, I turned the broiler on and I timed it. Literally took my phone and timed. I think my son did this for me. We timed how long it took for the broiler to kick in. I really wanted to know, and it was less than a minute. It was like 45 seconds. So then I went back to pre-baking. So I knew when I was about to make pizzas, that broiler would kick in about a minute. So what I did is, but then when you're making so many pizzas after pizza, I was sometimes launching without the broiler on, and it would kind of kick in midstream. So it wasn't ideal. However, when again, this was about feeding boys fast, and I didn't always get like the really nice, although I got some pretty good chow on it, not ideal. However, it did work, and I just kept cycling. I might have kept it for like 3 minutes on top and then 1 minute on the bottom, or 2 minutes on the bottom, 1 minute on top. I was moving on the fly, right? I was making adjustments to my environment, what I was doing. I hope that answers that. Basically 2 minutes on broil and then 2 in the oven. Yes, this was a 4-minute pizza. 4 minutes right here, guys. 4 minutes, which is amazing. That's because the baking steel is holding so much heat. It's allowing, and it's transferring that heat right into this dough, and that's allowing these pizzas to bake super fast, which gives us a result of a light and airy pizza that is out of this world. So good. If freezing the dough, do you make the dough ball before freezing? That is a great question, Francine. Yes. If I'm going to freeze my dough, I will bulk ferment it in the fridge for a day or two. I'll make my dough balls, and then I'll freeze those dough balls immediately before they start to expand. The idea is when I take them out of the freezer, they will start to expand after they thaw. So we capture them, we ball them up really tight, put them in the freezer, and then the final proof will be awesome. Oh, Clifford's asking, do I use the oven on convection? 100% yes, every single time. No matter what I'm making, I'm using convection. I don't adjust the temperatures. If I'm making something at 350 and I use convection, I still bake it at 350. I don't know what these conversions they had in these ovens meant. I think, however, I might watch it a little more closely, but I will keep the temperature the same. I always use convection. That's just a fan. All it is, it's a fancy word for fan in the back of your oven, and that just makes the oven temperature regulate more evenly throughout. So between the convection and the baking steel in there, we've got ourselves a deck oven at home, which is why we can make awesome pizza. Thanks, Tom. Thank you, Tom. We'll see you soon, okay? Hey, an email if you have any questions on that dough. I use bread flour, sometimes organic King Arthur and other regular King Arthur. Oh, okay. So I like their organic better than their regular flour, not by taste, just by the way it's made. And I'm surprised it's getting lighter. Is after 2-day fermentation, is the dough stretching okay for you after you make your dough balls? And then Kate is asking me, how big are my dough balls? This was a 255-ish dough ball. Grams, would I say that? It's about 255 grams. It's a really nice size. This made like a nice 10, 11-inch pizza. Personal, it's great, it's delicious. That's it. Okay, good. All right, so back to dough. Sorry. No sugar in the dough. I've always done that. Was taught it feeds the yeast. Great question. So we do not add sugar into our dough here because the fermentation, the fact that we ferment this dough for 2 or 3 days, all these enzymes are changing the natural flavors, kind of creating its own sweetness, if you will, because we ferment it. Now, I'm making a dough in 24 hours. Our English muffins comes to mind. We do add a little bit of cane sugar because it's a nice fermentation, 24 hours, but we just add a little bit, I think 20 grams of sugar to 500 grams of flour-ish in our recipe, just to give it a little bit of sweetness. And yes, you can add a little sugar into your dough if you'd like. We just try to stay away, use the natural stuff. All right, yes, it does stretch well, but doesn't rise enough or very little browning. I meant to say after 4 days, not 2 days. Okay, so it's not browning right. How long are you baking your pizza for? Is it like 5 or 6 minutes? Is it 7 minutes? Maybe if next time you make pizza, take some pictures and send them to me. I'd love to, I can probably diagnose better if I could see exactly what you're doing. Hope that makes sense. But yeah, you should be getting some really nice color. I've got some great color in this pie. This was literally 4 minutes, guys. And I had my oven open for probably 30 seconds total as I was showing you, which is, again, not ideal, right? You want to keep that oven closed as much as possible. But for the sake of class, we are keeping it open. Thank you. That's great. And email those to me too. I'm andrus@bakingsteel.com. Does anybody else have any questions? Any pizza questions? Anybody in Grand Rapids, Michigan? Don't be shy. Don't be shy. We are going to be doing, we're still some technical difficulties, but we are doing some smaller classes, like 6 to 10 people, just like this, but they're going to be private and they're going to be like on Thursday nights. If you're interested, we're going to pay a little bit for those. I think they're $30 for a seat. However, it's gonna be a lot more intimate. We'll be all on video. So if anybody wants to jump in one of those and answer the questions, we got it. All right. When I pull my dough out of the fridge after 2 or 3 day fermentation and start to knead it, it starts to split. Anything I should be doing differently? That's a great question. When we make our dough balls, because the dough has been fermenting for a couple of days, the gluten strands, the gluten inside the dough begins to break down, which is why fermented doughs and breads are much easier on our bodies to digest. We like to long ferment our stuff. That's what helps us digest. It makes this bread much more palatable for our bodies. It's awesome and healthier. With that, because the glutens will rip, because they're more delicate now, you need to be very, very careful. What kind of flour are you using, Zach? Not about pizza, about the bracelets. Okay, I'll explain that to you too. Zach, if you can, let me know what type of flour you're using. Let me tell about the bracelets. The bracelets, I've always got my baking steel bracelet. This is my kids' names are on this one. These are the baking steel bracelets. These are made of silicone, 500 degrees, which they can withstand temperatures of 500 degrees. So they do a couple of things. One, if I'm making bread, I can place them down on my steel, or I can use it as a cooling rack and place this right on top. It's going to allow airflow underneath. It's going to help keep my pizza crust crispy. Or breads. Breads, we tend to brown too much in the oven on steel. We can, don't always do it. These bracelets, if I'm making a 30-minute bread, for example, after 20 minutes, I'm going to lift it, elevate it off the steel, put my bracelets down and place the bread on top of the bracelets, which in turn allows the bread to still bake beautifully underneath, but not get too dark. That's why, but also nice cooling racks too. What type of scale do I recommend? This is a brand. This is my scale here. I've had this for years. This is called My Way, MYWEIGH. And I get this, I think on Amazon or myway.com. This is awesome. It's great. It's durable. I give it a beating and it measures beautifully. You're going to want to get a smaller one for your yeast, a micro scale. And by that, we mean, I have one of these. This is what I have here. This measures to the 1/100th of a gram. So micro amounts. This is a brand called Salter. Both of these on Amazon. This is less than $10. Scale maybe like 20. So a really good investment. Can I cook for a few minutes, then freeze to finish cooking later? Bob, great question. Yeah, so in my instance, I'm going to bake this again later, maybe tonight when my kids are home, right? That's why I baked it about 80% or 90. I'm going to place this on the steel later on. I'm just going to kind of sear it for a minute. It'll let that cheese get hot again and melt and the crust crisp up. So can you freeze it? Dough does freeze great. Like when you make bread or you make pizza dough, it does freeze really well. So yes, you can. King Arthur 0, pizza flour. Yeah, I mean, Zach, my intuition says that maybe the protein content in there is not super high. It may not love the longer fermentations. And it might be, you got to be really delicate. You got to have really soft hands when making your dough balls. You don't want to be abrupt and rip it. Be very gentle. I know when we taught our hands-on classes, a lot of people think this is like a stress ball and like you can see it in their hands and like they're not getting really aggressive. So just be really mindful to be soft and supple with your dough. It takes practice too, a lot of practice. Are you going to get more pizza rockers and dough container? Yes, Catherine, they're both on queue to come in. I think everyone's just got flooded with Christmas and it's just taking a little bit more time than we'd like. But yes, they will be coming back in. When do you bake it again? Is it on when I bake? Oh, good question. Kate, if I'm going back in the oven, no. The nice thing about using the broiler for the first 2 minutes, I've already got my color on top. Like I like the color on top here. So now I'm gonna go convection bake the entire time now. I don't need any more color. So I feel like that's perfect. And do you prefer a different flour? Happy. So Zach, I like King Arthur's great. I like it. I love Central Milling. Go to centralmilling.com. I like their high protein flour. I think it's high mountain bread flour. They might call it 2 different things. Let's see. This is a bag. Organic, high protein bread flour. Now I think they call it high mountain too. Awesome. Got a really nice high protein content. These, and don't be scared when you go on there and you go, okay, I'm gonna buy a 5-pound bag for $10 and I'm gonna ship it to myself. It's gonna cost me, call it $10 or $15 to ship the bag. Well, guess what? Your pizza cost, I'm making, how many pieces am I making out of this? A lot. Like 25 pizzas. So my cost is still like $1 a dough, even with that exorbitant shipping cost. So maybe I'll buy 10 pounds to reduce that a little bit. And then what'll happen is I'll make my dough. I'm not going to stress about the cost. This pizza all in is like $4. It's as good as anything. Reframe that. It's better than any pizza you can get anywhere. And I'm making this at home for $4 with really organic, high quality ingredients, like incredible. So much better to digest, better for you, that's a better experience. It's fun. You can share with your friends and your family. It's unbelievable. All for like $4 or $5. So you're placing the pre-boiled pie on the lower rack and the top, or on the top, but with the oven on regular convection. That's correct. When I go back in my oven later on, I did it's funny. So on Friday night, before the kids even arrived, I had made 4 pizzas just like this. 4, had them all ready. I put 4 pizzas back into my oven for the next 2 minutes just to heat them up. So when the kids arrived, they could each grab a slice and have some pizza right away. No broiler, just on convection bake. And I just stuck them in my oven, all on the steels. It was really nice. I hope that answers that. Anybody else have any questions? Amazing. You guys are great. Great questions. Let's take another look at the pizza here. Gorgeous, right? Spinning around. Awesomeness. All from your home oven. Any questions, email me, andres@bakingsteel.com. Grateful to be here with you guys. Thank you, thank you, thank you. All right, guys. Chris, good luck with that this weekend and let me know how it works out. We do have a cookbook. Baking with Steel. It's on Amazon right now. Baking with Steel. We got to do another one too. Get some improvements. Thank you, guys. Stay great. See you soon.